If you've been on YouTube in the last few months, you would notice that everyone seems to be making videos about the coming real estate market crash. And there's a good reason for that. With the looming stock market crash and a potential housing crash and millions of people in forbearance, there's valid concern for why that might happen. My name is Tommy Mutchler, and I'm a realtor and managing broker with RE/MAX here in Bellingham, Washington. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the real estate market, whether or not it's going to crash, how you can time the market so you can get the very best deal, and when the best time is to buy or sell your house. All right, now let's talk about the coming market crash. However, first, I think it's important to address what needs to happen for there to actually be a market crash, right? Because if we don't know what needs to happen, how would we know when it's coming or if it's coming at all? Now, there are two things that really need to happen for a housing market to crash, and that is a massive surge in inventory, houses, and number two, buyer demand just needs to drop like a rock. It's pretty much just basic supply and demand. If you have a lot of one product for sale, houses, and not that many buyers, prices tend to drop. And right now, while inventory is extremely low and there's not really a lot of houses for sale, paired with really, really low interest rates, which just makes buying so much more affordable, even in this crazy market, there's a lot of speculation that the 2008 market crash might happen again and prices are just gonna drop and now is a bad time to buy. And I don't know if that's really true. You see, basically what happened in 2008, and this is an oversimplification, the housing market got flooded with foreclosure. Now, if you don't know what a foreclosure is, basically you stop making your payments on your house and the bank comes in, takes your house. And one of the big reasons the housing market crashed in 2008 is because banks were just lending out money to anyone with a pulse. And that's because everyone was getting something called ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages. Not this type of ARM, although damn, that's looking kind of big. They're getting something called adjustable rate mortgages, which means their interest rate will adjust every now and then, causing their mortgage payment to be higher or lower. This is bad for a lot of reasons because, like in 2008, what happened was people had really great interest rates, and then the market crashed and their interest rate skyrocketed, which tripled their mortgage payment from, $2,000 to $6,000 overnight, which then, of course, caused the banks to foreclose on them and for them to lose their house, and, of course, for us to get a huge surge in inventory, and the rest is history. However, that can't happen again because lending practices have gotten extremely strict since then, and they've gotten even stricter with COVID. You will not find ARM mortgages anymore in America. They still exist in other countries like Canada. However, you're not going to see adjustable rate mortgages in the United States. If you do, it's very, very rare, and they're very, very dumb. Don't get them. Instead, what you see now are fixed rate mortgages. Most commonly, the 15-year fixed rate and the 30-year fixed rate, which means that your interest rate is fixed. So if you say you get an interest rate at 2.8%, which is a crazy low number, by the way, it will not go up or down. It is there. The market could crash, interest rates could go to 10%. You're still stuck at that same 2.8 interest rate, and your monthly payment will stay the exact same no matter what. Now, I know there's some other complicated things that were going on with banks packaging loans and selling them on the secondary market. None of that stuff is happening right now. Loan requirements have become so strict even today. I know people kind of think like, oh, they're just handing out loans with all these first-time home buyer programs and here's free money and you can buy with zero down and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of fear that what happened in 2008 could happen again. However, I don't think that's going to happen because lending practices are still extremely strict. Believe it or not, the bank does not want to foreclose on you. I know some people think they do. They want to get a cheap house. That's not true. Banks do not want to foreclose on you. They will do everything they can to help you pay back their loan and make things right. Now let's talk about what's going on in 2021 housing market, because things are quite different than what they were back in 2008. Yes, buyer demand is still really high and interest rates are still really, really low. However, inventory is still really, really low, and that's driving house prices up. And if those two things remain constant, housing prices are going to keep going up and the market will not crash. However, people are really fearful that we're going to experience another wave of foreclosures, which could potentially cause a housing crash. And again, this is because we've seen delinquent payments, so people that are 90 days late on their mortgage, have over doubled since 2019, which undoubtedly causes concerns. However, this doesn't mean we're entering more foreclosures thanks to something called forbearance. Now, you might have heard of forbearance, and if you haven't, no worries. I'm going to explain it to you really quickly and simply. Basically, what forbearance means is you are putting your housing payments on hold. You're pausing them. It's not going to affect your credit. They're not going to foreclose on you. However, when you get put on forbearance, your housing payments after 90 days still show up as delinquent, which means some people think that we're going to experience a wave of foreclosures because of all these 90-day delinquencies that are really just people in forbearance. Because like what I said, when people go into forbearance, they put their payments on hold and those payments then get tagged on to the end of the loan. But yeah, there's a fear because people aren't paying their mortgage that we could see a wave of foreclosures. However, I don't think that's going to happen. Forbearance is a really good thing because instead of paying an extra $2,000 a month towards your mortgage, you can now save that money. It's basically like free money. Yeah, you're going to be paying interest on it and you're going to be paying it back at the end of your mortgage after 30 years, but you're probably going to sell before you pay off your mortgage. However, that means if you're paying $2,000 a month and you've been on forbearance for the last year, that's basically $24,000 over the course of a year in your pocket because that's money you didn't have to spend on your mortgage and instead you can save, whether or not you are employed or not. Now, the fear is that once the forbearance expires, we're going to see a massive surge in foreclosures. However, I don't think that's going to happen. However, a lot of people who took the mortgage forbearance didn't need to and instead just decided to take it anyway because they could. Again, it's kind of like free money and instead saved that for a rainy day. However, the main reason I think there's not going to be a forbearance is because if you're in forbearance and you lost your job and you can't get back to work because of the pandemic, most people are smart enough to know to sell their house now while it's still in forbearance instead of waiting for the bank to foreclose on them once the forbearance expires. Now, yes, I know there's some dumb people out there who will wait until the very last minute and they won't do the right thing and they won't sell their house during the forbearance period and they'll wait for the bank to foreclose on them. However, those people have always existed and they always will continue to exist. People have been doing that for decades. And because we're in this weird pandemic thing, that's not going to really increase those numbers. Again, anyone that can't pay their mortgage right now and once forbearance expires have already sold their house or are preparing to sell their house. How do I know? I work with them. I'm a realtor. I'm out on the ground selling houses every single day. And there's not that many of them. So no, I don't think the housing market's going to crash. I really don't see how it could, especially with the feds keeping interest rates so low and buyer demand being so high. And the risk of this foreclosure wave is pretty low. Remember, lending standards are extremely strict right now, especially with COVID. Seriously, go ask any mortgage lender and they're going to tell you right now they've been cracking the whip and really are making sure people are qualified and have good jobs before they are lending out money to anyone. Now, that said, the market still could crash because, let's face it, the future is unpredictable. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, and if we did, I would be a very rich man. If I could predict the future, I would be super rich. Come on, let's face it, guys. And remember, what goes up doesn't always have to come down. Now, I know people say, oh, what goes up must come down. Is that true, though? Because we send rockets into space, and not all of them come back down, right? And if you look at any graph, look at this fancy graph, right? They usually go up, and then you might see a small dip, and then they go right back up, right? Like, they don't completely crash, which leads me to believe that we could potentially suffer something called a micro crash. I think it's very possible that these bigger cities like Seattle, Los Angeles, New York could experience some more micro or minor or isolated crashes, whereas the more rural areas like Bellingham, places like I live, where a lot of these people in the big cities are fleeing to, are going to be fine. They're not going to crash. Or they could. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a greedy realtor and trying to be optimistic to try to trick you into buying a house. So to summarize, what happened in 2008 cannot physically happen again because lending practices have been so strict, and it's very unlikely that we're going to see a wave of foreclosures. But again, the future is unpredictable and who really knows? So all of this begs the question, how can you time the market to get the very best deal? You can't. It's actually impossible. There have been dozens of studies about people trying to time the market, trying to buy at the low and sell at the high, whether that's the real estate market, the stock market, or even the flea market. And the reality is you cannot time the market. In fact, a monkey has a better chance of timing the market than the majority of experts. Now, don't lose hope. There is still a secret way that you could buy real estate, or even stocks for that matter, and always beat the market. And I'm going to tell you that secret in 3 words. And those 3 words are buy and hold. Holding assets for 10, 15, 20, 30 years never produce a negative return on your investment. This is what all the top financial experts, who again apparently don't know anything, well, they can't time the market, right? They know stuff, they just can't time the market. They can't predict the future. However, history has shown us that buying and holding and staying in the market for a long period of time always guarantees a high return on your investment. Here's an example for you. I'm working with a client right now. I'm about to list her house next week. She bought her house 2 weeks before the market crash back in 2008 for $280,000. 2 weeks after she bought it, the market then crashed. Now, 13 years later, we are selling her house. And can you guess what we're selling it for? $580,000. Her property has doubled in price since she bought it back in 2008. She bought it here, it went down, and then it went right back up. Because time in the market always beats timing the market. For the long term, if you look at any investing charts or the stock market, the index funds, real estate market, if you just look over 20 years, you're gonna see it always does this. It does a lot of this in the middle, right? Don't try and buy in these dips. You're gonna lose. But if you just buy and hold, you're gonna be all right. People lose a lot of money trying to time the market, and it's just not worth it. Yeah, a few people get lucky on occasion, but 99% of the time, they don't. I've been selling real estate for 5 years now, and every single year, people are complaining to me and telling me the market's gonna crash in the fall, it's gonna crash in winter, it's gonna crash next year, I'm gonna wait until it crashes. Guess what? Prices have gone up 50 to 70% since they've told me that. And they still haven't bought a house, which is fine. They don't have to buy a house. However, them trying to time the market has caused them to miss out. So when is the perfect time to buy or sell a house? I'm gonna be honest with you. That's really up to you. That's your call. As one greedy realtor to a savvy home buyer and investor like you, I'm gonna tell you to buy when the time is right for you. If that's today, great. If that's 3 years from now, great. Don't let anyone try to scare you into buying a house now or scare you into waiting until the market crashes. Because like I said, as long as you're buying a house and holding it, not trying to flip it or be some sort of crazy real estate investor who has no idea what they're doing, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna get a really good return on your investment. So to summarize, we cannot predict the next housing crash. We don't know when it's gonna happen. No one knows. What happened in 2008 will not happen again. This is because lending practices are so strict. No one is getting ARM loans anymore. Everyone's getting fixed interest rates, so their cost of their mortgage will not increase. Though, like I said, we could experience a micro crash in some very isolated areas like bigger cities. However, again, I think the more rural areas are gonna be fine. But even if the market does crash, who cares? Because we all know time in the market always beats timing the market. And you should only buy a house when the time is right for you, not when the time is right for some realtor. All right, thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please feel free to like and subscribe and share this video with someone who is scared that the market might crash. Also, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the potential housing market crash. If you think I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me in the comments. I'm sure someone will. However, my name's Tommy Mutchler, your favorite realtor, and I'll see you in the next one.